Hi, my name is Adriana, and today I will be doing the Judge a Book by its cover tag. I originally saw this tag on Megan's channel, Megan's Reading Revelations, and I just thought it sounded fun, and I am trying to get a bit of a book collection together, so I thought it might be kind of fun to go through some books that I've had for a while, some new kind of releases that I've picked up based on covers, and just kind of do something fun. I don't actually know who originally created this tag, but I will link Megan's video down below so you can go check out her video if you haven't already, and let's get into it. So the first prompt is break the ice and just show some book covers that you like. I have picked out two that I like. So the first one is The Beautiful and the Damned by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Oh my goodness. So I picked this up in Powell's bookstore in Portland, Oregon, and it's just a little mass market paperback, but I really do think the cover is so beautiful, that kind of Art Deco, early 20s styling, and I just think it's super cool. The next one I want to talk about is, I am interested in the source material, but a big part of the reason I picked this up is because the cover is so beautiful, and that is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. So I assume most people have probably seen this book floating around BookTube, but it's just, I love the kind of white marble head we have with the gold accent lettering. I just think it's very pretty and it looks great on a bookshelf. So the second prompt is the best book cover. So I guess this is just like my favorite book cover, and it's probably a little bit biased, and I've definitely shown this book on my channel before, but it is the Dolores Book of Greek Myths, and the whole book is illustrated, but I think the cover especially is just so beautiful. The illustration of Helios and his chariot and 4 horses and all the little kind of illustrated people and animals across the floor. I think this yellow sunsetty color is beautiful. I think the font is kind of basic, but I don't know. I love the cover of this book. I think all of the illustrations in this book are gorgeous. So definitely my favorite cover, and this book is falling apart. Ah! Prompt number 3 is the worst book cover, and for me, that is definitely The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This is an incredible book if you've never read it. It is about Henrietta Lacks, whose cells were taken without her consent, but they eventually led the polio vaccine, but all of this was done without her consent. But I mean, it's just an ugly cover. It's just like this like orange and pink. I think that's like a picture, like a close-up microscope picture of like cells, but then like a somewhat transparent picture of Henrietta is just like slapped on top, and I think the font is garbage, and I think overall like this is a really good book, but the cover is just terrible. Like, it just looks bad. So it's definitely a bummer, because I don't know if I saw this in a bookstore. This was the required read for freshmen at my university, my freshman year. So, well, it wasn't really a required read, but like, it was supposed to be a common read. All the freshmen were supposed to do it. I am the only person I know who graduated that year that actually read this book. So, but it is, I definitely wouldn't have picked this up in a bookstore because the cover is so gross, but it is such a good book. So the next prompt is coolest cover with a weapon on it, and by default, that is The Inheritance Games. So this is the only book I have with any sort of weapon on it. It's got a little knife down here in the corner. I haven't read it yet, but yeah, this is the only book I have with a weapon on the cover, so it is automatically the coolest book I have with a weapon on the cover. The next prompt is a unique book cover, and this is what I really struggled with a lot. Like, what makes a cover unique when it was printed that way with potentially thousands of books? I mean, I guess one I don't have here with me, it's actually at my parents' house, but I can insert a picture of it here, is 5,000 Miles Underground by Roy Rockwood. It is a 100-year-old steampunk fantasy about taking a blimp to the center of the world. So, I mean, it's definitely a unique book cover because anytime I've tried to search this book on the internet, you just get a lot of like free PDFs because it's so old, it's in the public domain now. I hardly ever see the cover like on anything else. But as far as books I do have on me, I have On Booze by F. Scott Fitzgerald. So this is another one I picked up at Powell's Books in Portland, Oregon. And I don't know, I think it's just kind of unique in its simplicity. Like, it's just a yellow triangle and it's on booze. So it's just a collection of journal entries and poems and songs and stuff about partying in the 1920s. The next prompt is, do judge a book by its cover, and what book lived up to its pretty cover. So this one again is kind of forcing the book in. But I love my copy of 1984. I knew I wanted to read 1984 by George Orwell, and I scoured the internet for a copy that I thought looked neat because I knew I was probably going to keep it for a while just to make myself look smart. And so I purposefully sought a cover that I thought was pretty, and the book did live up to the cover that I already thought was pretty. The next one is Show a Book That You Bought Blind, and this is gonna make me sound like a super book hipster, but I'm really just kind of uncultured swine. So let's keep that in mind before I get into this. But back in late 2016, early 2017, when I was just starting to get back into reading after taking a break during college, I was going to my local bookstore and just kind of poking around, seeing what was up. I didn't really see anything I liked, but then I saw The Handmaid's Tale and I had never heard of it before. And it just, something about it really grabbed me and just brought me in. And I don't know how much you'll be able to see, but there's, you know, this illustrated figure of one of the handmaids on the cover, and she's kind of looking back away from the front of the cover, and it just, I don't know, like, the illustration is really beautiful and the block text, I don't know, just something about it really drew me to it, and I ended up buying this knowing nothing about it. And the guy at the counter said like, oh my gosh, this is such an incredible book, and I was like, great, I can't wait to read it. And then it turned into a TV show, and it's a modern classic, and I, again, am just uncultured swine. The next prompt is a cringy book cover. So it is a book with a bad cover, but it was a fun or enjoyable read. The book I picked is just kind of representative of like a type of book cover as a whole. But I picked Nobody's Princess. It is a middle grade YA retelling of Helen of Troy. So I think I read this either in middle school or high school, and I really enjoyed it at the time. I don't know if I would enjoy it still. I haven't read it in a decade. But I don't like book covers with like real people, like photographs of real people on them. I love illustrated people, but any book cover with like a real person on it, and I'm really glad that the romance genre is starting to like get away from that, it seems. At least like the big like Christina Lauren, Talia Hibbert, Helen Huang, they're all kind of getting away from, I guess they might not have as much control, but the big romance books are getting away from having like the people on the cover, which I appreciate. I think the illustrations are so much more beautiful and so much more fun to look at than just like a person. It just feels weird, especially when you can see like their faces. Like, it's one thing about this book, like at least she's turned away from you, so you're just seeing like her hair, but like, I don't know, I just don't like real people on books. So the last question is, show off some of your special editions. I only have 2 books that you could even call special editions, but the first one I'll start with is an omnibus of some of, or I guess just a collection of H.G. Wells's novels. So I think there's 6 in here. It is from Costco. So I don't know, it's like leather bound. I think Costco kind of has like a whole collection of leather bound classics, but you can see the spine here, a little spaceship. And the best part is it has sprayed gold edges, which I'm always a fan of. Sprayed edges are so cool. So, yep, this is one of my special editions. I haven't read any of the novels in this book, but I have it. The next one will make sense if you watched my recent reading vlog of me jumping on the bandwagon of Shadow and Bone. But I bought the collector's edition of Shadow and Bone. So it comes in this white box with gold accents. And then the book itself is black with gold accents. Again, really nicely bound. I don't know, it feels very like soft for a hardback. So you can see all of the shiny. So we got all sorts of gold and silver accents and down the spine. And then the inside is an illustration of the stag, as well as, I mean, I think all of the copies of Shadow and Bone have the map, but I don't know, this one's just very glossy and shiny. And then all the pages are bordered with like these neat borders. So I probably will never actually physically read this novel, considering I already own it on ebook on my Kobo. So if I ever do decide to read Shadow and Bone, I'm probably just going to reread it on my Kobo, you know, because I don't want to ever like break the spine or like ruin any part of this fancy book. But I am glad to have it. It's very fancy. It has one of the built-in ribbon bookmarks. I like it. I'm glad I bought it. So that is the end of the tag. All that's left to do is tag other people. So I would like to tag Lala Loves Lit, Danny Marie Reads, and Izzy's Inks. And I will have all of their channels linked below, so you can go check them out. They're all great. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.